Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. All right, man. Merry Christmas. Nah, I'm just playing with you. But I do have a game for you guys. Magnus Carlsen versus Wesley. So, and this game was played on Christmas Eve, 2024. So kind of Christmassy, but you know we far away from Christmas right now. So of course, all my people in the Philippines, I will say Maraming Salamat. Anybody who is coming from Norway, I will say Tusen Tak. English, thank you very much. But if you guys are ready to go, son, let's take a look and see what we have for this game. All right, man, so we got knight to f3. It is also known as the ready opening. It's kind of like a waiting move. You're kind of, it's kind of requesting some information. You really kind of want to see what black has planned. So black just copies white's move. So we kind of have like a double ready situation. And we do see the move g3. And we have gotten into the King's Indian attack. So this is going to like 100% follow all King's Indian type stuff. It's interesting for me because I play the King's Indian as white. Or I play against it as white when I play d4. And so this is pretty much exactly how I play it from the black side. We got the move d5. We got bishop to g2. We do see c5. So this is known as a Sicilian variation. For those of you who play the game of chess, you probably have heard of the Sicilian defense. Yes. Okay, cool. And so it is this move c5 is signature of that. We got castles by white. We got knight to c6. We got the move d3, h6, and then we do see knight b to d2. We got the move e5. And like I said, this is almost exactly the way that I play when I'm playing white. You get the really huge center. You got the knight tucked down behind. You got the move h6. You don't really want any bishop coming here. Sometimes the knight coming there can be an issue too if you play bishop to e6. So, Wesley so just making sure he has all his bases covered. He has a nice full center. We do see the move e4, and this is kind of, sometimes I'll watch like Hikaru Nakamura, and, this is kind of his bread and butter. I think he did like the double fianchetto thing. That was kind of like how he did things. So we kind of see it a little bit. But don't tell Magnus that I said it's like Hikaru, because he'll be like, what? I'm the one and only. So we do see the move d4. We got knight up to c4, and you might kind of have the impulse if you're black to say, hey, man, I'm going to kick this knight, but the knight is actually temporarily living in that square for the moment because we have double hit this e4 point. So it's exactly what, black is always trying to do against white when they play the King's Indian as black. Queen c7 does protect e5, and we do see the move a4. And this is very important because the move b5 is absolutely on tap, and it will disrupt this knight over here. So we just play the move a4 to make sure that b5 is not a factor. We got bishop going to e6, and then we see the novelty of the game, knight f to d2. So you have ideas when you play the King's Indian that you really kind of want to get this move f4 in, or, if you're playing black, you want the move f5 in. Kind of breaks, white's hold of the situation. You have the option between both of the knights. Knight f to d2 is a little bit more accurate. You are freeing up this f pawn to start to move. Sometimes you have this and it rips things open. Sometimes you stretch it out here. You kind of get a little pawn storm rolling, stuff like that. So we are prepared for that. That is why you see the move g5. Like I said, this looks identical to me when I play from the white side. It's pretty much this entire thing. You basically are just really, really trying to play against this move. Sometimes you'll see like a knight even come to this square just to really, really hone that idea home. So that is what we're seeing by Wesley. So we do see queen to e2. We got rook over to g8. Black has not castled, but the position is pretty close in the middle. So, I mean, it's not super dangerous. But, I mean, black is just saying, hey, man, I might as well just kind of go in this little attack. We do see the move a5 gaining some space on the queen side. We got bishop to e7. And knight goes over to b3. And we do see the move h5. And like I said, I mean, black is like, hey, man, I know I'm not castled. So, I mean, my king is not the happiest camper in the world. But I'm going to just attack you. I'm going to just attack you for no reason at all. So we do see the thematic move f4. Pawn takes f4. We do see pawn taking f4. And then the nice in-between move bishop to g4. And, I mean, black is actually kind of borderline winning in this position right here. They pretty much have done everything right. They kind of just need to get the king out the center of the board. I mean, that's kind of something that you can do. If you want to survive a position, is kind of get your king into some kind of safety, though. But this is a really nice tempo gain on this queen. Maybe you can knock it to like a less desirable square. So we do see queen over to d7. We got bishop over to h3. And at the moment, if you do nothing, let's say white falls asleep and they're like, hey, man, I don't even know what's going on. A rook would be taking here, and this would be winning the queen. So, of course, Magnus Carlsen is like, I'm too gangster for that. So we do see rook going to f2. Queen goes over to d7. And if you allow this queen to hit on g4, you're kind of out of there, man, because now you have way too much pressure on this position right here. So we have to prevent that. So we do see the best move in the position, and that is f5. Just disconnecting this queen from coming over here. You got this open file right here, and it is not pretty if you just allow Wesley So to just throw more pieces into the position. We got long castles by black. We got king going over to h1, breaking the pin. Bishop takes. We got rook taking, queen taking. And you guys probably have guessed it. That white is going to be, they're going to be doing a little bit of playing over on this side of the board, man, because we got our pawns pointing in this direction, pointing up to heaven. And so we're going to be trying to make our dreams come true over here on this side of the board. We got rook over to g8. We got queen to f3. We got queen over to d8. We do see bishop to d2. At the moment, the rook was not really doing anything over here, so we kind of need to get it into the position some kind of way. So the bishop comes to d2, and we are now going to get that rook rolling. So the king goes down to c7, bishop down to e1. We got knight to g4, and then we do see the move h3. Bishop comes to h4. Some of you guys might be like, wait a minute. If I'm black, I just played knight to g4, and you played h3. Like what am I doing right now? Like, I'm just going to leave my knight there? Well, there's a very specific idea. Now, I'll just take you down kind of like one variation that you might see, but the idea is very, very strong. So, in the position, we saw Wesley So actually, or Magnus Carlsen actually play the best move, which is f6. Doesn't look great because three pieces are kind of hitting that point, but you do have the knight that is, hit on, g4 right here. So the knight kind of has to move. But if you did not play that, and you got kind of wide-eyed and you said, hey, man, let me go ahead and grab this knight because isn't it free? It would kind of be free. Pawn would be taking g4, but it is considered a blunder because you would be looking at bishop taking e1. And the problem is now the bishop has moved out of the way and you are looking at possible queen to h4. So after you would probably see, let's say like rook takes e1, queen would be coming to h4 with check. And you're going to have to move over like this. So not only is there queen taking here, there's also some rook taking type stuff here too. And there really isn't a whole lot of places that you can go. So that is just one idea as to why you really don't want to take this knight off the board. Now, you got to be careful when you're playing your own games. If it looks like your opponent hung a piece and they just literally don't care, you probably want to double, triple, quadruple check and make for sure that you're not falling into some type of trap, man. So, yes. So we do see the f6 pawn going, and then we see bishop taking e1, rook taking e1, and then we do see knight taking f6, and then the rook is sliding over to f1, and you do have to worry about that your knight is hit right here, this pawn is hit right here, but this c5 pawn is actually currently hanging. So something is going to have to give at some point. So this is the best variation to go about right here. Knight back to d7. And you do get one of your pawns back. So we see that white and black have kind of gotten pretty equal. It's saying that black is just a little bit better. I'm not 100% sure why. Probably because it seems like maybe this king is a little bit more exposed than this one is. So that's probably why you have a little bit of an advantage if you are black. We do see rook going over to h8. We got queen going to g4. One of the major things that you want to be paying attention to right here is that you are not dropping any type of stuff because you do kind of have a lot of open and half open files toward this king. So these pieces can start to kind of get into the action right here. So you definitely want to make sure you are defending your position. Queen goes to e7. We do see king going up to h2. We got f6. We do see rook going to g1. We got b5. And this was one of the ideas earlier while we pushed this pawn all the way to a5 because we really wanted to kind of make it undesirable to push this b pawn in any form. And so we see b5 and then pawn takes here and then the pawn takes right here. We got queen going to g7. You really kind of do want to trade queens. The board is actually way too open if you're white, so you definitely want to get rid of this queen off the board. It would definitely make your position just a little bit easier to play because, I mean, the rook is probably going to have a hard time kind of getting at your king by itself. So naturally, Wesley So says, bro, I'm not in any of that. I'm going to go ahead and just back up. And we are good to go. I'm not going to trade pieces because my attacking chances go down if I trade pieces, right? Exactly. You know what I'm talking about. Good job, homie. So we do see rook going up to g3, just making sure that we are protecting everything. And then we do see the move queen going to h5. We have actually reached a position in the game. There is a really nice tactic that is in the position that Magnus Carlsen finds, of course. So if you want to go ahead and pause the video and try to guess what move that is, go ahead and do so. All right, man, keep my hydration going, man. Okay, so currently this knight is pinned to this king, so there is a way to exploit that. So if you guess the move, knight takes b6, then you would be absolutely correct. This is weaseling a pawn away from black. And you're not forced to capture here, but I mean, you are kind of pinned to death right here. So you kind of want to do that. So we do see Wesley so taken there. And then we see queen taking d7. And the craziest thing, though, is Stockfish is like, I'm not even impressed, man. Like, this is nothing. And you're like, what? Why is the computer why does it never care? Like, it's just like, I'm bored, man. I'm going to go to sleep. It's crazy. So queen does take d7. Like I said, Stockfish not impressed. It's like, hey, man, I've seen better. You're like, whatever, bro. All right, so we got queen going down to e2 with check. The rook goes down to g2 to block. Queen goes down to f1. It is kind of pinning this rook right here a little bit. I mean, the queen is defending, but I mean, you know, you probably don't want to move these two pieces somewhere and get checkmated. I mean, that's not what you want to do. So we do see queen going back to g4. And, I mean, pretty much, white is just kind of holding this pawn. They do have an extra pawn at the moment, so... I mean, it's just kind of like an extra pawn. You're not really, you know, like getting a trade-off or anything right here. So we do see rook going over to a8. We got knight down to d2, hitting the queen. Queen goes to f4 with check. And this is not ideal. There really wasn't a whole lot better. You know, you really can't go too many places with the queen. I mean, knight is going to go to c4 and check the king. So, I mean, you're just not looking very great. So you kind of had to go into this trade, but it is kind of miserable if you're Wesley. So we got queen to f4, queen takes, pawn takes, and then we do see rook sliding over to f2. We got knight going to e5, rook takes. We got the rook down here. And we are just going to try to like maybe clear all of this stuff off the board, press against the king. And this is absolutely the best spot for the rook is on the second rank. As they say, a pig on the 7. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that expression, but that is kind of what we call it. This pig is on the 7 trying to eat everything up. Okay. So we do see rook going to f6 with check. We got king to c7, and then we do see rook going down to f5. And not only is this attacking this knight, but it is also placing a threat on this c5 pawn. So you don't really have a whole lot of great options if you are black. So we do see rook taking b2, just committing to the whole, I'm just going to mow everything down on the second rank. We got rook taking again. We got king going up to g3 to make sure that when the rook takes d2, it is not check. King goes g3, rook takes d2, and then we do have this really nice rook takes c5. And we are up 2 entire pawns. That is going to go away very soon, though. We do see king going down to b6, rook goes to d5, and then we do see Wesley so winning back one of his pawns with check, which is always nice. We do see king to g4, we got rook to d1, and then we do see f4 by white, and then we have the move d3 by Wesley. So now we have actually come to another critical position, and I was like, hey man, why don't I do another guess the move, because this is a really nice idea. This is kind of an in-game type of like understanding that you kind of have to have. There is a specific move, not really a specific move, but there's a specific idea that has to be executed right now, or you basically just draw the game. It basically says 000. So if you want to guess, there's about 3 moves that are acceptable. Actually, 4 or 5. There's like 4 or 5 moves that are acceptable. But like I said, it centers around one specific type of an idea. If you want to go ahead and pause the video and try to guess what move white should play in this position, go ahead and do so. Okay, so the idea is you need to be recognizing there's an in-game concept, right? Where if you get a pawn to like the last rank before you kind of get to where you can promote, if the king is not in a specific position, you are able to move away and with a check, So that would look like something like this. So let's say, for example, like, you know, you played something like this, right? Okay, this would kind of be throwing things away because now the king is kind of like out in the open. And this rook is going to be able to come somewhere over here and place a check on the king. And then you're going to be able to force promote the pawn, force the rook to give itself up, stuff like that. It's not super complicated. After you kind of get an understanding of it, it becomes very simple. But, I mean, it can be complicated to kind of try to digest at first. So in this position here, instead of pushing the pawn, you needed to understand that you need to move this king either closer to the rook or basically what we saw Magnus Carlsen do in this position is to go king to f5. And then after you saw d2, you see that he nestled himself behind, you know, he's using his own pawn as cover from checks. Now you could have done this. You could have done this by going like this, or you can do it like this. That is fine. You also have the opportunity of coming down like this. And if you had something like this, the king would be coming down. And you're just making sure that you are not going to be checked from a distance. So those are the two different types of avenues you can go. But you have to recognize that you have to prevent this check in the promotion of the pawn. So like I said, we did see Magnus Carlsen go ahead and do this, making sure that he is hidden behind his pawn. And then we proceed forward. We do see king going to c6. We got the move h5, trying to see if we can just continuously push this pawn. Right now, the rook is a little bit stuck, but now it's going to have to break itself off. So we do see rook going to h1. The rook takes d2. We do see rook taking h5 with check. So this is a check, but you are able to weasel out of that. We do see king going to f6, rook goes to h6 with check, and then now we have made contact with the rook. The king goes to g5, and then we have rook to h8. We do see the move e5. One of the other really important things about this position here is that this rook is right here, and it is cutting off the king, so the king cannot proceed this way. So when you're playing rook in games, that's definitely something else that you want to be paying attention to, trying to make it to where your opponent cannot cross a certain plane. The restriction of the king with rooks is very powerful in games. Now, so we do see king going to c7. The king is really not making any progress, so it doesn't too much matter. We do see the move e6. We got rook to f8, and then we do see the move e7. And it is in this position that Wesley loses the game on time. Now, some of you guys might be looking at it like, hey, man, well, what would happen after like this? I mean, you know, I know that white has an extra pawn, but is it really that lost? It absolutely is. If I was to give you guys an example of kind of what it would look like going forward, you really can kind of do anything you want as black. You can block the pawn or you can kind of move away. It's going to kind of end up being the same thing, just maybe delay the move. So let's go with the rook blocking the position type idea. After we see rook to e8, the king would go to f6. You would be looking at the rook moving, or the rook doesn't have to move. But like I said, the king can only just kind of just like shuffle around that side of the board. You would be looking at king to f7. You can just shift over again, and you would be forcing this pawn into promotion. And you guys probably know that this is a 1000% one in game. This is very easy. You know, for a majority of people, I think, to win a rook and a king versus a king. If you do not know that, I will put the video that I made showing that exact checkmate in the little card in the corner. But I appreciate everybody very much for coming by. Maraming salamat king makaibigan. Post on nunod inga king my video. Mabuting pagbati to you. Mabuhay. Anybody who is coming from Norway, I will say tusen tak. God Morgan to you guys, and I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys next time.